So we're going to read today the introduction to the next few chapters in the discourse we're learning, Hechaltzu. And we are at chapter 21. So here's an introduction to chapters 21 and 22. Please listen. From this point until the end of the Mimer, the Rebbe Rashab, the author, discusses the unity that characterizes God's name, Havaya, Yud-Ke Vav-Ke, the name that equals 26. We know it as Hashem, right? Moshe, when we say Hashem, we're referring to this name. Hashem means the name, the most holy name. God has 7 names. This is the holy one, the holiest one, Havaya, Yud-Ke Vav-Ke. You know, the Christians and others, they pronounce it Jehovah. That's what we're talking about, okay? In greater detail, he begins by focusing on the interrelation between its first 2 letters, the Yud and the Hey, which are identified with the Sfiros, with the emanations of Chachma and Bina, respectively. There are 10 Sfirot, Chachma, Bina, Das, Chesed, Gvura, Tiferes, Netzach, Hod, Yesod, Malchus. The first 2 correspond to the Yud and the Hey. These 2 chapters, chapters 21 and 22, are devoted primarily to the explanation of the letter Yud and the Sfira of Chachma that it represents. So 2 chapters just on the letter Yud. The size of the letter Yud reflects the concept of contraction, right? Yoni, it's a small little letter, Yud. To employ a moral analogy for a mashpia, for a teacher, an influencer, they call a mashpia today an influencer, a source of influence, to communicate to a recipient on a far lower level than himself, he cannot convey the message he desires to share as it exists within himself. Doing so would overwhelm the recipient and prevent him from absorbing it. Instead, the mashpia, the influencer, must contract and concentrate that message, withholding its full potency and distilling it into a limited, focused form that the recipient can digest. Okay. In a cosmic sense, this describes the process of tzimtzum, contraction, through which God contracted and limited his capital H, his light, to begin the sequence through which our world was brought into being. Simply speaking, guys, if God's essence is shining, it's overwhelming. How can a world emerge? It cannot. So what did God himself do? He contracted his infinite light. And and what came about? Just a finite light. Oh, from a finite, limited light, limited energy, the world can emerge because the world is a limited experience. Everything has its place. Everything has its time. So the world as we know it comes about only because of what we call the tzimtzum. Tzimtzum meaning the contraction of the infinite light. That's what he just said. And that is represented by the Yud, the little Yud. The little Yud is the, demonstrative of tzimtzum. Next paragraph. The Rebbe Rashab then shifts focus to the recipient, not to the influencer, but to the recipient, clarifying that just as the input, the influencer, the mashpia conveys, is described as a yud, because it is concentrated into a single point, so too, in its initial stages, the recipient regards it as a single point. For him to grasp that influence, He must concentrate and focus his energies upon it. Even then, it remains beyond his reach. It is described as a point because, like a point, it is without dimensions. It cannot be grasped and internalized. To explain by analogy, it is like the seminal drop from which a child is conceived. That drop contains the potential for all the limbs and organs of the child that will later come into being. In its present form, however, they exist only in potentia, entirely different from the state into which they will ultimately develop. So the second point that he makes here is that the contraction, the minimization of the infinite light is beneficial both for the influencer and for the recipient. For the influencer, if he doesn't wish to overwhelm the recipient, and better said, if he wishes for a recipient to emerge, he must contract his infinity. Right, Mark? A teacher in a classroom, if he wants you to understand something, he has to contract all of his knowledge. If he comes in like the absent-minded professor at Berkeley, and I've met such kinds, and probably you have as well, they're geniuses, but for the students, it's a waste of time. Oh, yeah, there's one thing you could say about him. Wow, the guy's a genius. What did he say? I have no idea. It's over my head. So a good teacher, a good influencer knows that about himself, and he says, hey, I'm interested in teaching them. I'm interested in having them understand this information so that one day they can be teachers. They can know this knowledge. The only way I can do that is I need to contract my information. That's one thing. Now that's why it's only a point, a nakuda, chokhmah, like a seminal drop of semen before it spreads in the body of the woman, which she then has the child come from it. Now, from the point of the recipient, the student as well needs to first grab the point. If you don't grab the point, then your idea is built on a faulty foundation, and guess what? It can collapse like it happened in Surfside, Florida. A pancake flat, whoop, the building goes down. If you have ideas and the fundamental foundation are faulty, are errors, the whole ideas are crooked. And unfortunately, we have a lot of this today, where people, or just take, for example, the Nazis, the Machshema, may the name be erased, they had faulty ideas in their head. Here is the Aryan nation, supposedly the intellect, and they come with a conclusion that gypsies and Jews are vermin, right? That is a foundational error in thinking. And therefore, they built a mountain of, we have to get rid of a disease, otherwise it'll kill people. So we have to get rid of them, right? So they built a mountain based on a faulty foundational thought. So too, when it comes to Hashem's name, Yud Kei Vav Kei, the Yud, the first of the four letters, is very important for there to be a healthy Hey Vav Hey, for there to be a healthy progression of everything that comes after. You must have the point. So the recipient, we're not talking about now the influencer, the recipient seeks that as a beginning. The recipient knows that the first thing I have to get is the point. So in study, it's this way too. And people make this mistake many times in the way they study. They go right into the details before understanding the overall point. Bad mistake. In order to properly understand the details that come later, you need to have a grounded, well understanding of the foundation of the point. And when you understand that, and you have that solidified in your mind, then you can go to point B and C and D, etc. Those are the things that he speaks about. He'll be speaking about in this chapter. Okay, Chevra. Good talking, good learning, and we will continue tomorrow. Have a great day, everyone. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Rebbe. Thank you. Have a great day, Rebbe. Take care.
Bye-bye.